So, with this full moon in Capricorn, we have obviously the influence of Saturn since it's the ruler of Capricorn, but we also have this full moon blending energies with Pluto. And so, as soon as I looked at this, I was like, there's intensity here. And it's an intensity that, yes, we have the full moon here on the 21st in the Pacific Northwest of the United States, but it feels like it's like the beginning of a period of time. And so, like, when I looked at it, Pluto is in retrograde right now, and it's going to continue to retrograde to the 29th degree, which is where this full moon is in Capricorn, when it stations direct again the second week of October. And so I feel that this blending of energies here with this Capricorn full moon and Pluto is, yes, the full moon energy of like it's here, whatever that is here. And there's a specific of course, with retrogrades, there's always like a repeating energy. And so we have the ruler of Capricorn, Saturn, and Pisces retrograde too. And so there could be this return, or there could be a replaying, or there could be a remembering, or there could be a rewinding, a repeating type energy here. And it's very much from a soul level. So when I talk about Pluto, or when anyone talks about Pluto, the symbolism of Pluto is one of intensity is the word that keeps coming up to me, but it's not, yes, intensity, but why is it intense? Because we feel it deeply. It's something that has been ingrained within us. It could be traumas, it could be ancestral patterns, it could be just life experiences that keep repeating, that are on rewind, that are trying to get you to see something deeper, Pluto. And so I feel this full moon in Capricorn here is one where it's like the table is set, and it's like you're in the middle of it, or you're experiencing it, or you're trying to, depending on where you're at, you're trying to understand the deeper meaning, or you're just having an intense experience, or you're like, oh, I'm here again type of an energy is what I'm feeling here. And so when I talk about Saturn, I talk about there's just so many layers to Saturn, and there's so many layers to Pluto. Some of the topical things are society. Saturn is like, how do you place yourself out in society in the most authentic way, in the most empowered way, in the most aligned way. It's also, how do I package this thing? How do I create it? What kind of structure do I align with? Do I have my own structure that I'm creating? It's also a bit of restriction. It's also karma. It's also squeezing. There's like a squeezing type energy that provides you experience, which then gives you wisdom so that you can help others, which is also Saturn being like an authority figure, where I'm able to help people because I've been there and I've done it and I've had direct experience. And so there's just a lot of layers that I feel with this symbolism of this full moon. And I don't feel I'm accurately expressing what I'm feeling, just because I feel the energy is so intense. And of course, individually, everyone's going to experience that in their own unique way. Some people, it can be a truly pivotal moment, like a turning point, like a stepping into this new reality that's something that you, from a soul level, haven't experienced before, which could be experienced as intense, or it could be experienced as almost euphoric, like, wow, I didn't even know that this was possible. So there's a lot here. So I'm going to flip now to the chart, going to pull up the chart for this full moon and see what other messages want to come through. So we have this full moon in Capricorn on July 21st at 3:17 a.m. here in the Pacific Northwest, PST, in the United States. So we have, like I said in the beginning, this full moon here, which is blending energies with Pluto. And so we have the sun in Cancer shining its light on this full moon. And so again, we have this Cancer Capricorn polarity, Cancer being that caring, nurturing yin energy, supportive home type energy. And then the other side of the energy band being Capricorn, which is taking that and bringing that out into society, into some type of a structure. It's authority, it's taking responsibility. And so we have this septile aspect to the ruler of this full moon, which is Saturn up there in Pisces retrograde as well. So the septile is, I think of it as a fated aspect. It's not something you have to do. It just kind of comes to you. And so that's an interesting aspect here. It's typically a minor aspect in astrology, but I like to pay attention to them. So that could mean for some of us that there's this fatedness to it. There's an event that happens, there's an opportunity, there's something that changes in your reality, which is truly transformative. Pluto conjunct the moon here in this energy. The other thing is the moon is at the 29th degree of Capricorn, so that anaretic degree, that last degree of Capricorn, which brings its own intensity, which we're very familiar with because Pluto has been moving across that 29th degree. It's in retrograde right now. It's going to go back to the 29th degree again. And so we've been feeling collectively and individually this intensity, this squeezing type energy, moving us forward, getting us to see what we need to see. And so I really feel this full moon in Capricorn is like, of all the moon readings that I'll do this year, I feel this one is really again, I get that phrase, setting the table. This is really going to be where your trajectory is set for the next few years even. I really feel that strongly. And whenever you have the archetypes of Pluto and Saturn involved, and especially together in aspect or blending energies, that's going to be a really important period of time. I don't like to use those terms often, like this is like really intense or really important, because it seems like everything's important in this reality. So I don't like to overstate that or keep saying that, because it's just like, well, yeah, it's every experience I'm having here has some type of response which could be intense, right? But this is like, again, from a soul level, there's a soul level feeling here. And so when you think of the archetypes here, just pulling in Pisces, pulling in Aquarius, pulling in Capricorn, especially Capricorn and Aquarius. Aquarius, at the root of Aquarius, is all about individuality. It's expressing myself in the most unique way possible. So if you think about Capricorn, Capricorn is, and you can think about this from an individual perspective in terms of structures that you're a part of, which could be family structures, home environments, work is certainly part of it. there's some type of conformity that happens within Capricorn. If you think of it from a consensus standpoint, you live in a town, you're part of a country, there's customs, there's rules, which are Capricorn, which say this is how we operate. This is the container that we need to operate in for safety, for security, for benefit. And of course, you can argue those, but there needs to be some kind of structure for the masses. You can even think of it, like I said, from a home perspective. And so Aquarius comes along, and Aquarius is like, well, I also am a unique individual that needs certain things, and certain things that I need, certain ways that I'm going to want to express myself from a soul perspective are going to go against that container, because the container is just meant to hold the masses, a larger perspective. Or even think of it from a family perspective. If you have parents or you have people that rule that environment or work environment, they're trying to hold a container for a group, for people, individuals. That's good in some ways. It's productive. It helps you move forward. But in other ways, it doesn't quite allow Aquarius to come through. And so as you evolve from a soul perspective, Aquarius becomes more prominent, where it says, I need to individuate. And for me to individuate, some of these structures, some of these roles of Capricorn, they're just not going to work anymore. And so I'm going to find myself moving away, finding myself going down other avenues, exploring different opportunities, finding outlets to express my own creativity. Then you have the ruler here of Saturn in Pisces. And again, keeping in mind the retrograde, like repeating, redoing, reliving type energy here in Pisces. And so Pisces is the collective consciousness can be part of it. Pisces is feelings, deep feelings. It's the water element. It's the emotions. It's the intuitive side of us. And so Saturn is like, how do we step into our own authority when it comes to that type of energy, when it comes to the energy of everythingness, the collective energies, intuitive abilities, that type of stuff. And so with this energy here, with the retrograde, keeping that in mind, it's like replaying or rewinding, or how do we restructure this energy that I've been working with in a way that serves me and the people around me, which may mean that things can shift dramatically. Maybe the people around me or the environments I'm in aren't serving me. Maybe I'm repeating a pattern where I'm finding myself in an environment again, Saturn, where I feel restricted. I don't feel like I'm able to fully express myself. Why am I here? Pluto. What's the deeper meaning? How do I understand what within me is keeping me connected to these structures that don't allow me to shine? That's a big type energy that I'm feeling here for this full moon. The other thing here is we do have, it's somewhat loose, but not really. We have the square energies to Chiron and Eris. And then we have supportive energies here to Mars and Uranus, which Mars and Uranus was just in a conjunction there. Mars steps into Gemini at this period of time. And so those energies adding to what I've already described. Eris, when I was looking at this, when I came in here before doing this reading, what came to me in the symbolism of Eris is to become whole, which is this circle here. It's like the complete loop. To become whole, we need to go deep, which is the arrow pointing downward. And so I just got this intuitively when I was looking at this, especially with it connected to Chiron. Any kind of wounding, any kind of things that you need to see within yourself, or that have been maybe it affected you maybe society, maybe parental figures, Saturn affected you when you were younger. And it's now a period of time where I want you to be able to see that so you can understand it and remove it. And it's going to require you to go deep, which could mean, again, this phrase of intensity comes up for me, which could mean that this could present some intensity with people around you. The nodes of the moon have been going through Aries and Libra. In this axis is relationships. How do I come out in relationships? And so we have this energy here in Aries, which is like intensity in terms of my own direction, taking my own direction. And how do I do that in a way that is aware of the people around me, is honoring of the people around me, but ultimately needs to be honoring of myself. Because if I'm not there for myself, if I'm not being the supportive, caring, nurturing person to myself that I need to be, that's going to be reflected externally in relationships. And with this aspect being a square, squares are tension. Why do we have tension? So we can move forward, so we can be uncomfortable, so we can get ourselves to a place where we feel more aligned. In evolution, if you look at your chart and your soul becomes more evolved and understands those energies, it then becomes tension for those around you. Those around you start to feel tension in your presence because of your alignment. If somebody comes into your field that's not aligned, they will start to feel tension within them. So that's kind of how the evolution of a tension aspect is felt. Then we have the supportive aspects here to Mars, which is the ruler of Aries, stepping off into Gemini. And we have that Aquarius energy, that ruler of Aquarius, Uranus, and Taurus, which is the Venus side of us, which is, again, relationships, but it's also our relationship to ourselves. And so with Mars supporting this intensity, moving into Gemini, and we already have Jupiter in Gemini, which is expanding. And Gemini is all about the logical mind. It's all about communicating. It's like, how can I communicate effectively what I'm feeling, what I need, what's going on? Maybe you have something within you that you want to communicate. Jupiter in Gemini, it's time to express it, or it could be time to express it. That's this energy. And it's from a soul level. So a really intense, impactful, pressure cooker, euphoric, like think of all of the intense experiences that you can have here in this reality. That's on the table here. It's like, again, I keep getting on the table. So obviously that's going to be the name of this reading, is on the table. That's going to be in there in some way. That's the kind of feeling that I get here looking at this chart. And so, like, I go back to just before I look at the Sabian symbol, like, there was a video from Matt Kahn where he called it, 2024 is the quickening. I really feel like this symbolism of this full moon in Capricorn is I don't want to say is the quickening, but it's like it marks a really important period of time now through the end of the year where there's going to be like this Aquarius type energy, some intensity, some people's shadow stuff coming out is always part of it, because whatever we don't see within ourselves, we can project, or that's a way to see it, is to project it into the environment and then get feedback. Libra, get feedback from other people so that we can see it. Whether or not you're aware of the feedback you're getting and what it's trying to tell you is another thing, but that's really what's going on. That's the energy exchange that's happening. It's like I need to project what's inside of me externally so that I can get the feedback, so that I can understand more of what's vibrating within me, so that I can transform it to Pluto. And so, with that, let me flip over to the Sabian symbol for this 29-degree mark here of Capricorn. So, we have a secret business conference, and James Burgess says here, highest level of social influence. So, certainly the Saturn archetype jumps out to me here. And what James talks about here is what I talked about in the beginning, like Saturn being representative of a structure, and talking a bit about societal structures and how like the few control the many. And so what I see here is from like, I take it from like an individual higher perspective, is what structures are you aligned with? What is the frequency of that structure? And when I say frequency, I'm talking about, and he talks about it a little bit here, about you can think of it from a lower frequency perspective where somebody feels like as your soul is in this body and you have the experience of being separate, even though you're not separate, people can experience that as I want to feel powerful. And in order for me to feel powerful within myself, I need to control and I need to have things the way that I want them. And so people will naturally be an energy match to that type of energy if they are not aligned within themselves. They will just follow what is dictated to them as the structure. And so as we evolve, that we get to the point where we are our own authority and we are able to look out into the world and be able to align ourselves with things that support our own inner knowing. And we become more aligned with the all of who we are. We become aware of everything that we see in this reality is a reflection of ourselves, our own beingness, our own soul, our own energy is reflected externally. And so then we start to interact in a way that is more inclusive, it's more aligned, it's more higher vibrational, it's a higher frequency. And then we are no longer an energy match for lower frequency leadership, or people that feel they need to control the masses in order to feel good within themselves. It's no longer an energy match. And so what I get when I look at this secret business conference is more so, I feel it internally. It's more like, it's like going into yourself and understanding, what am I trying to show myself through the environments, people, situations that I am a part of that don't really feel like they're supportive of me. So it's more like a secret meeting within yourself to be able to say, I want to be able to uncover, like just maybe even saying this question to your higher self, just throwing it out there, which is something that I like to do, is to be, if I don't know something, to be like, hey, can you show me what this is? And then just let it go. And then through the course of living life, there'll be a circumstance, there'll be something that comes up, your eyes will be drawn to something will come through at a certain period of time, which will answer the question. Sometimes, not always, because I feel like there's a timing to it. And if your soul's not ready for it, you won't know it, you won't get the information. But it's almost like, show me what I need to see here. Any type of environment or anything that's holding me back from doing what I feel I should do, or if I'm repeating cycles that don't feel good to me, what is this within me that keeps this happening, that keeps putting me in this situation? I'm in this situation for a reason. It's trying to show me something. Please show me what it is so I can shift my energy. And so that's what I get here is more the internal part of this, but it's also tied to how do you live your life? What structures are you a part of? What rules are you a part of that maybe feel good and supportive, but aren't really aligned with all of who you are? How can I shift out of that? How can I gain more of my individuality? Uranus, Aquarius energy. So that's what I have for you with this full moon in Capricorn. As always, I appreciate your energy. Thank you so much for checking this out, and I will see you again in another video. Take care.